call upon Sir Professor Jatashankar for his talk. Please, sir.
Tell me in minutes. 15 minutes. All right. Yes. Respected Chairperson, Professor Mohanta sir. Respected Chair and co-speakers on the dais, my friends and philosophers from different parts of India and abroad, and dear students. The topic which I have given for today's talk is an introduction to Allahabad School of Philosophy. See, the talks regarding different schools have started since beginning. Professor P.K. Mukhopadhyay, he referred Bengal School of Philosophy. On the similar line, I would like to introduce Allahabad School of Philosophy. And actually this term was used by my guide, Professor S.L. Pandey. And in his mind, he had Oxford School and Cambridge School. So he termed Allahabad School of Philosophy, in which actually he has written a very small book, Problems of Depth Epistemology, in which he has compiled 4 articles of 4 of his predecessors. P.S. Burrell, the first head of the Department of Philosophy, Professor R.D. Ranade, Professor A.C. Mukherjee, and Professor R.N. Kaul. And along with that, he has given a long introduction. And in his introduction, he has mentioned this term. These are the philosophers of Allahabad School of Philosophy. So this paper, it is not well written and well organized paper. That is why I could not send it properly to be printed in that souvenir. But in 2 parts, I will try to share something. One part is regarding those articles which have been mentioned in this school, and especially in that small book written by my Guruji, Problems of Depth Epistemology. He classifies epistemology in 2 types. One is surface epistemology, and the other is depth epistemology. And the need for depth epistemology is that in spite of having different theories of knowledge, some questions remain unresolved. There remains something which is not solved. either by idealism or by realism or by empiricism or by rationalism, pragmatism, etc. All these systems fail to resolve certain questions. And in order to reply those questions, he proposes depth epistemology. I will not elaborate depth epistemology because other speakers might be doing on the same line, especially those who belong to Allahabad University. But I will just name the articles. The title of the article by Professor P.S. Burrell was the Criterion. He was not an Indian professor, he was a Britisher. But he writes on the same line, taking something from Greek tradition and something from Indian tradition. The Criterion. The second article by Professor R.D. Ranade, this is the doctrine of criteria. The third is by A.C. Mukherjee, on whom I shall try to say some more words in the next part. That is foundations of knowledge. He speaks of foundational knowledge, and of course, in which he takes Advaita position, especially of Shankaracharya. And the fourth article is by Professor R.N. Kaul, and the title is Coherence versus Dialectic. These articles, some of these articles, 1, 3, and 4, 1, 3, and 4 were published in Allahabad University Studies, a very reputed journal which was published very regularly in those days. And the second article of Professor R.D. Ranade, he has extracted, Professor Pandey has extracted this article from Vedanta, the culmination of Indian thought, which was published by Bharati Vidya Bhavan, Bombay in 1970. So the matter was collected from these areas, but ultimately he has given ek sutrata. He has tried to formulate them on one line. And about his own book, he has written, and while writing something on his own book, he has quoted a great Naiyayik, Shankar Mishra, who has said, Shlaghaspadam yadyapi netaresham iyam kritihi syadupahasa yogya. This, whatever I am writing, it is not worth praise for others. Maybe people make fun of it, but third and fourth line says, Tathapi Shishyaihi Guru Gauravena, even then my students, those who honor me, they will respect it. And Parasahasrai Samupasaniya, they will honor my book, therefore I am writing it. So the purpose of the book was justified by the great author, the great Advaitin. He was a great scholar of Advaita Vedanta. Now, in the second part, because I know the paucity and poverty of time, and I have read William Shakespeare, who says, since brevity is soul of wit, I shall be brief. So I will try to prove that I am a witty person, and therefore I shall be brief. See, Professor A.C. Mukherjee's position I'm going to discuss with you is based on his book, nature of self. Because this is a perpetual question, who am I? Right now, perhaps Rajesh Chaurasia ji, he was referring to Ramana Maharshi. I have seen one of his books in Tamil, it is Non-Yar, and it was translated in English by Professor T.M.P. Mahadevan. And a Pandit from Kashi has translated it into Hindi, and I have edited and published that Hindi version in my own Sansthan, Samaj Dharma Evam Darshan. I regularly publish a journal from that Sansthan for last 40 years. And I try to collect such materials. So one is the same question arising in the Upanishads, Ko Ham, who am I? It is continuing till today, and no final answer is available even now. We are all trying to do, we are trying to solve it, but we are unable to do it because we don't have the method, or even if we have, we don't follow the method by which transcendental reality, transcendental truth can be comprehended. Professor Mukherjee starts his writing with 3-4 postulates. He says that philosophy is search for ultimate truth. Secondly, he says that this ultimate truth is beyond time and space, and also categories. Third thing, third statement which he has given as his foundation, says that all philosophies, whatever we have done and we are doing, we do it in time and space. It is spatio-temporal, and also it is confined to a system, a particular system, pranali. हम किसी न किसी पद्धति में बंध करके उसको करते हैं. Since I am Adhyaksh of Akhil Bharatiya Darshan Parishad, I will try to say few words in Hindi also, because that Parishad is committed to philosophy in Hindi language. So I will try to mix up, not mix up, I will try to mix Hindi with my presentation. So we are trying to know that reality, that truth which is beyond time and space, through a tool which is spatio-temporal. And this defect causes the unsuccess of our attempt. We do not succeed in doing what we desire. See, so this is how Professor Mukherjee proceeds. And then he discusses in detail a problem which he terms as egocentric paradox. Egocentric paradox. A paradox which arises when we try to know the knower, the Atman. This Upanishad mantra was mentioned by some of my speakers yesterday also. Atma vai are shrotabhyo mantabhyo nididhyasichabhyascha, and yena sarvavidam vijanitam tam kena vijaniyat. This kind of trouble even the Rishi of Upanishad had in his mind. And that trouble is still, yes, it is persisting, and to some extent it is growing today, because rishis were uh, much ahead of our mind and our position. Anyway, so this problem arises because every object of knowledge presupposes some knower. And then when we try to know the knower, what would be the position? Who would be the knower of the knower himself? Alternative may be another knower, but this alternative will lead to infinite regress. And another alternative may be that we put the knower as an object and then try to know. But this also commits the fallacy of transcendental dislocation. And the third alternative, which has been mentioned by many scholars today and yesterday, the Kantian position that let us say that it is unknowable, but that position is not, even that position is not acceptable. Philosophically, that cannot be accepted, and that is not satisfying. So this is how Professor Mukherjee has, he proceeded. He says that there have been popularly two methods. One is, he terms it experimental method or inductive method. Inductive or experimental method, which is followed by psychologists in their researches, or as Professor Mukherjee says, the realist thinkers. And he has specifically mentioned like Nayayikas in India and Locke in Britain. They accept this position. And the second method, which is popularly known to us, is he terms it as logical method or transcendental method, in which the object is, they try to know the object within the category, or they try to know the object logically. And this method is followed by, if I don't mention Kant, this is very much followed by neo-Hegelians like Edward Caird and T.H. Green, who disagree among themselves. One goes with Kant and accepts agnosticism, and the other goes with, other rejects Kantian position and accepts this fallacy of transcendental dislocation. I don't have time to elaborate these positions because my student Niti is on the dais. She must remember that I taught this topic in 10 lectures in my classroom. So how can I summarize in 10 or 15 minutes here? So I will not try to elaborate it. But one thing, some things I would like to add, that in order to avoid these two undesirable positions, transcendental dislocation on one hand and agnosticism on the other hand, Professor Mukherjee simply, after saying that on the same line on which Adya Shankaracharya has rejected so many positions in his Brahma Sutra Bhashya, parasparam virudhyante ime parasparam viruddhyante, vayam tu avirodhinah. So all these schemes, all these systems, they are opposed to each other. And since we are avirodhavadi, we don't believe in any kind of virodha, how virodha is possible in Advaita? When there is a non-dual transcendental reality and all pluralism and dualism is simply at empirical level, Maya Janita. So, ime parasparam viruddhyante, all they are fighting with each other. But we are avirodhavadi, we are not opposed to anybody. On the same line, Professor Mukherjee says that this the method which creates the fallacy of transcendental dislocation, or the method which leads towards agnosticism, they are paraspara virodhi. They are mutually contradictory. And he takes a position which is the position of Advaita Vedanta. And that position, this word has also been mentioned many times during these 2 days. Aparokshanubhuti. This is the third proposed method which is adopted by Advaita Vedantins. And this can solve the issue, though it is not so easy. Many of my friends will raise many questions how this aparokshanubhut can be accepted as a method. It may have its own sufferings, but Professor Mukherjee has accepted that this position actually is successful in avoiding the two undesirable alternatives. And he has quoted several times, he has quoted Upanishads. I once, some months ago, I discussed with Professor Ambikadatta Sharma ji that I have got a Upanishad mantra from Keno Upanishad, from where Professor Mukherjee had extracted his one sentence in English. He says that the ultimate truth is beyond the known and above the unknown. So it is neither known nor it is unknown. In popular sense, it is neither known nor unknown. And this position is very beautifully presented in Kenopanishad, Khand 1, first part, Mantra 3. I have just written for sharing it with you. Na tatra chakshur gacchati, na vag gacchati, no mano, na vidmo, na vijanimo, yathaitad anushishyadanyadev. I have come to know this from the tradition. Etad eva tad anyat eva tad viditat. It is other than the known. Anyadeva tad viditat atho aviditat adhi. And aviditat adhi. It is beyond the avidita, the unknown. So it is neither known nor unknown. And we know that ultimate truth is Atman, call it Brahman or Atman, because there is Advaita among the two. And I'm sorry, I'm saying among the two. There is nothing like two. So actually, we have the trouble of our linguistic limitations. Right now, paper was presented, very good paper was presented on universal religion. Had there not been used the term religion, much of the trouble would have disappeared. So we have trouble of communication, medium of communication. But Upanishad says in its own language, Sanskrit, that it is anyat eva tat viditat atho aviditat adhi. So with these words, and Professor Mukherjee has also quoted Vredaranyaka, where it is said that gyaptirtasya swarupam na tato vyatirichyate. So gyapti, that knowledge is its nature. Neither it is knower nor known. So this position has been taken by Upanishads, and that has been beautifully described by the great Professor A.C. Mukherjee in his book, The Nature of Self. Thank you.
Thank you so much, sir. And now the session is open for discussion. We can take only 1 or 2 questions. Please, sir, come. Sir, could you have mic?
First of all, congratulations on such a lucid presentation, sir. My question is whether you mentioned some fallacies. So fallacy of transcendental location, fallacy of egocentrism. So I wonder whether they are fallacies, because fallacy is a fault that we commit in making inference. Fallacy, concept of fallacy is logical. When we violate the rule of inference, we are committing a logical fallacy. So I wonder whether this fallacy, for example, naturalistic fallacy, Moore's famous fallacy. So it is not a logical fallacy. So what kind of fallacy is it, if at all it is a fallacy?
Very small. Professor Bagale, he asked a question where there is a fallacy. What is the characteristic of a fallacious argument? Simply that the inference is incorrect. The fallacy lies in this decentralization in the same way as it lies in naturalistic fallacy. We try to use the tool of one area in another area. And in this case, we dislocate the center on the periphery. In putting the knower as known object, we are committing the fallacy of decentralizing the knower. Let us call it fallacy, because what Moore has said, is it a fallacy? Naturalistic fallacy is not a fallacy in strictly speaking. In the same way, it's popular that fallacy of decentralization, this is a, and one thing more, nothing is illogical in philosophy. Therefore, wherever we commit a mistake, it's a fallacy.
So,
Really learned a lot about Mukherjee. You know, usually there is a difference between method and content, method and result. In Advaita, like you are a great scholar of Advaita, so Sravana Manana Nididhyasana are taken as the means, method for Aparokya Anubhuti. But Professor Chatterjee says Aparokya Anubhuti itself is a method, right? But either the word method has to be understood different way, or Aparokya Anubhuti has to be.
Yes, this is a debatable point, but when one says that he is postgraduate, it means that he has done matriculation, then +2, then graduation, then he is a. So this aparokshanubhut is the ultimate goal of certain methods. Not goal, culmination of these methods. So aparokshanubhuti has been called as a method because it is culmination of methods. That is what Professor Mukherjee has maintained in his book. No, but my position is not different. Guru Gaurapena, he was guru of my gurus. Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Sir, one more question is being asked by Alok Tandon, sir. Sir, please. Alok Tandon, sir, are you there?
Yeah. My question is that this whole business of aprokshanubhuti is very, very subjective. And this cannot stand the critical scrutiny of the scientific age. How can we say that this anubhuti is different from other anubhutis, mundane anubhutis? And if it is, why not call it a different mental state, not a evidence and proof of transcendental reality? We can accept that it is a sort of different mental state created by human being himself, within himself. But it does not show that there is some transcendental reality outside. Thank you.
See, my friend Alok Tandon, when he asked a question on the paper of Rajesh Chaurasia ji, I friends sitting beside me that this question is a complex question. He has presupposed that there are two things. One is ultimate and the other is empirical. Whereas the position of Advaita Vedanta is that all is Brahma, Sarvam Khalvidam Brahma. So when we accept this position, then the question disappears, raised by Professor Alok ji disappears. He is a very good friend of mine, and he cannot restrict himself from asking some or many questions. Today we have enough time, therefore he may ask only one question. Otherwise, he would have asked several questions on this topic. So I thank Alok ji to make my talk interesting. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.